Welcome everybody to Hear Me Out Podcast and Frank Analysis. I'm your host Franco, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. She's a young activist. She's also a college student. Her name is Glory Jones. She writes for Medium.com, and she's also an honorary member of the MCSC network, which was founded by Nico House. It's great to have you here, Glory. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's great to be on.
It's important for people to know the truth about what's happening. And my friends, who some of which are, semi-politically informed, some of them who are apolitical, they don't know about these indie YouTube channels that talk about this stuff. But they have heard about TYT. And you mentioned the name neo-progressive. So could you explain to people what is your gripe with TYT? And why are they considered neo-progressive?
Basically because they're not real progressives. They throw up all the progressive dog whistles with policies like, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, $15 minimum wage for everyone. But at the end of the day, they're not going to put the work in to make it actually happen. Or B, they're not going to inform their people and their viewers the right way on how to get there. Like, Jank right now is doing his best impression of, Mehdi Hassan just acting like an absolute fool and sheep-herding progressives into believing that they're actually going to get something out of these task forces when we know that didn't happen in 2016. So, we know we're not going to get anything out of it, yet you're still trying to convince people that we are. And so not only are they sheep-herding people into supporting Biden, but they're also just drawing attention away from the real issues. None of them are talking about Julian Assange, which his persecution is one of, the greatest attacks on the free press, because he's literally an award-winning publisher who published war crimes and violations of the Fourth Amendment. And we're literally jailing him just for publishing that. And no neo-progressive is going to talk about Assange. No neo-progressive is going to talk about election integrity either. And another thing they do is when you do try to talk about that, they essentially shut you up. If you try to bring up these grievances, or if you tried to bring up these grievances to a Bernie supporter during the middle of the election, they'd say, "Oh no, you need to be quiet. This is about Bernie winning and nothing more." Dang, guess you don't want Medicare for all then? Come on, we gotta let Bernie win no matter what. And there was also the instance of, I look at someone like, Fiorella and all the stuff she had to go through for literally just blowing the whistle on what was happening in Bernie's campaign. And she just got so much hell for it when she was literally just telling people the truth, and she had good intentions because she wanted us to improve from it. The neo-progressives, they're like centrists in a sense, and they just want to stay stagnant. They just want to stay reactionary because that's how they profit. They profit off of saying, "Oh, Republicans bad. We need Medicare for all. We need a Green New Deal. That's it. End show." And not giving you any real content on things you can do or breaking stories or teaching you anything new. So it's just so stale at this point.
Yeah, and Republicans are not the problem. They're not the only problem. The problem is the system. And the system right now is corrupted by corporations, and it's not just Republicans that are bought out, it's Democrats. So we need to spend as much time attacking Democrats as we do Republicans, and that's not what TYT does, as you mentioned. And as you were also talking about how a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's either Bernie or it's the highway." When there were other anti-establishment candidates that ran, they did what Bernie Sanders did to me and to you and to other people back in 2016, and that they pulled people out of the matrix. Like Yang, he opened a lot of people's eyes in which Bernie Sanders didn't do in 2016. Same thing with Tulsi Gabbard. And rather than building a bigger coalition, and this is something that I talk about a lot with my other guests and when I'm on Big Talk, Little Talk with Israel as Daily, is that we missed out on such a big opportunity of building a
Yes.
massive coalition, much bigger than what we saw in 2016, by just attacking anybody who wasn't Bernie Sanders. And Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard were both inspired by Bernie Sanders. And the Young Turks were one of the main people who sheep herded that. They fell for mainstream media smears about Tulsi Gabbard. They ridiculed Andrew Yang. They ridiculed Marianne Williamson. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so like Tulsi, it sucks to say it, but she's used to plenty of the smears. It just sucked to see this election that she would get so many smears from progressives, and they were mad at her for like the most stupid things too. Like the stuff with Modi, which was literally just her, meeting with Modi, and she literally said in an interview that she would meet with Modi and she would meet with Prime Minister Khan of Pakistan because, that's their issue that they need to figure it out. So she literally said that she believes in self-determination of what the Indian and the Kashmiri and the Pakistani people want to do, and they just conveniently forget that. And then, there's also the stupid smear of like, oh, she dropped Medicare for all. Like, no, she didn't. She just had something different. She had something similar to Australia. And for the record, when they were doing that, they misrepresented Bernie's version of Medicare for all so many times. Because if we're being real, Jayapal's bill is superior to Bernie's bill on Medicare for all. And they misrepresented it and mixed it up so many times. And then on top of that, there was like, oh, well, she didn't sign on to the pledge supporting the Green New Deal. Like, yeah, because she has something 100 times better. So there was that. And then, just Andrew Yang and Marianne Williamson getting just absolutely ridiculed for, trying to help and trying to, bring out that coalition. Like, with Andrew Yang, they were literally up until this pandemic happened, TYT and others were making fun of him for pushing UBI. They were like, oh, UBI is stupid. We need the federal jobs guarantee instead. And it's like, okay, well, we need both UBI and federal jobs guarantee, but if we're talking alone, UBI is better. But because Bernie pushed the federal jobs guarantee and wasn't willing to adopt the UBI literally until the pandemic started, and after Tulsi Gabbard put out the first resolution demanding emergency UBI, then they ridiculed the idea of UBI, and they just absolutely disregarded Marianne Williamson, even though she was the only candidate to talk about reparations on a debate. And she also tied our foreign policy to our immigration. I disagree with Yang and Williamson on positions, but I agree. But I think that their hearts are in the right place. And this election, they've done more to help us than to hurt us. And the fact that Bernie wouldn't want to reach out to them and court them and build that coalition was just so annoying, because literally for the last 3-4 months before Bernie dropped out, Yang, I think Marianne already dropped out, but Yang supporters and Tulsi supporters, we had to deal with months of, Tulsi and Yang need to stop playing. They just need to drop out and endorse Bernie. How is that going to help?
Yeah.
Do you realize how different these candidates are? You think Bernie's going to pull independents like Tulsi does after he was Russiagating for 4 years straight, and after he doesn't support Assange? No. You need to form a proper coalition. You can't just take everything for granted, which is what Team Bernie did. They took everything for granted. And, obviously the neoliberals and the mainstream media was terrible this election, but at the same time, like, you could have fought it if you just embraced that coalition and, you know, kind of went like all Trump on them. Instead, you took all your success for granted. You took Bree Joy Gray for granted. You took Nina Turner for granted. You took hardworking grassroots people like Fiorella and another one I know, Melissa, for granted, and just, you know, now they can't be delegates after all the hours they put in. So yeah, it was just a mess in the Bernie campaign this election, and it's a shame.
All I have to say to people like TYT and Michael Brooks and Sam Cedar and other people who are like that in Bernie's campaign is, way to stop you know, a massive uprising of the things that you kept talking about on your show that you wished we could have. Imagine if we had Bernie's massive movement, him still shouting about Medicare for all, and having Tulsi's foreign policy, her OFAC, having Andrew Yang's UBI, having Marianne Williamson's reparation policy, and her bring to people's awareness about the chemical industry, which no other candidate was really focusing on. Big opportunity missed. It's really unfortunate, and I hope more people learn about this mistake after we reflect about what happened this election, so that we can finally have a progressive win, and more progressives win nationwide, because it's not just about the president, but more progressives win nationwide, and so that we can get the policies that we need. You know, our basic needs need to be met. Thanks for watching that segment of Hear Me Out. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below so you can get the latest on sports, pop culture, and progressive politics. Stay informed.